I still remember the dawn of April 12th, 1861, as if it were yesterday. The air in Charleston Harbor was heavy with anticipation, the kind that presses on a man's chest long before the first shot is fired. For weeks, rumors had swirled through the taverns and street corners. War was coming. Yet none of us, not even the most confident politicians or fiery newspaper editors, could truly imagine what that war would feel like when it finally arrived. I had been sent south as a correspondent, instructed to watch the situation at Fort Sumter, that lonely stone fortress rising out of the harbor. Major Robert Anderson, commanding only a small garrison of Union soldiers, held the fort. Around him, the newly seceded Confederacy demanded surrender. Both sides seemed trapped in a game of patience, each waiting for the other to make the fatal first move. The days leading up to April 12th were filled with tense negotiations. From my window in Charleston, I saw carriages racing through the cobblestone streets, carrying messages between Confederate leaders. The citizens spoke openly of independence, their voices swelling with pride and defiance. Flags bearing the new stars and bars fluttered from every porch, every courthouse, every ship at anchor. I could sense that they wanted a clash, something decisive to prove that their break from the Union was no longer just words on paper. On the night of April 11th, I was near the wharves when I overheard whispers. The Confederate guns would soon open fire. That night, sleep was a stranger. I lay awake listening to the restless city, the creak of wagons moving artillery, the murmur of men gathering on the waterfront. It felt like the harbor itself was holding its breath. Then came the signal. At 4:30 in the morning, as darkness still cloaked the sea, a single shell arced across the sky. It glowed faintly against the horizon before it exploded above Fort Sumter. The war had begun. The sound was like the tearing open of history. Within moments, the Confederate batteries surrounding the harbor erupted in thunder. Dozens of cannons roared, their flashes lighting up the night. The echo bounced off the water and the stone walls of the city, shaking windows and rattling hearts. I could see the bursts of flame from Sullivan's Island, from Morris Island, from every direction, converging on the lonely fort in the middle of the harbor. Inside Sumter, Anderson's men scrambled to return fire, but they were hopelessly outgunned. Their cannons were few, their supplies short. Through my spyglass, I saw smoke rising from the fort as shot after shot struck its walls. Yet the flag, the United States flag, still flew defiantly above the ramparts. Every time the cannon smoke cleared, there it was, waving stubbornly against the storm. As dawn broke, the city of Charleston gathered at the waterfront. Men, women, and even children stood watching, some cheering each Confederate blast, others silent, solemn, knowing that something far greater than South Carolina's pride had been unleashed. I moved among them, notebook in hand, but my thoughts were less on the spectacle and more on the weight of what it meant. This was no mere skirmish. It was the shattering of a Union built over nearly a century. The bombardment continued through the day, hour after hour. The heat rose, and with it the smell of gunpowder drifted across the harbor, mingling with the salt air. By midday, smoke poured from parts of the fort, flames licking at the wooden barracks inside. I imagined the soldiers choking on the fumes, their ears ringing from the constant thunder. Still, they held on. Still, the flag waved. Finally, after 34 hours under relentless fire, Anderson surrendered. Not because his men lacked courage, but because the fort itself was no longer tenable. Their rations were nearly gone, their walls crumbling, their guns silenced one by one. The Confederates allowed them to evacuate with dignity, and the Union soldiers marched out with their heads held high. I stood on the shore as the stars and stripes were lowered from the battered flagpole. The crowd erupted in cheers, but I felt only a heavy stillness in my chest. I knew that this surrender was not the end of the matter. It was the opening of a wound that would spread across the continent. The cannons of Charleston had awakened a fury that could not be put back to sleep. That night, as I wrote my dispatch by candlelight, I struggled to find words strong enough to capture the truth. I had witnessed not just the fall of a fort, but the birth of a war that would define our nation's soul. Families would be torn apart, cities burned, thousands upon thousands consigned to early graves. And yet, in that moment, no one could truly grasp the scale of the tragedy that had just begun. I ended my report with a single line, one that has stayed with me ever since. The guns of Fort Sumter have spoken, and America will never be the same again.